everything. My if it's in Creole, they won't understand a word.
Mhm.
Cool. So I went ahead and started the recording. We're gonna go ahead and start. All right.
Okay.
All right, y'all. My name's Volsi. How y'all doing? We're here for another atheist testimonial where we speak to fellow Black atheists on their experience on being a Black atheist, either how they became one or if they were one their entire life, how it was growing up in a religious society. We're gonna go into politics, dating, and everything like that. Right here, today we have Chalfie's sister, who's been a friend of mine for the past, I would say, 3 years now, and we're gonna go ahead and start with her. So, Chalfie, go ahead and introduce yourself. Who are you and how long have you been an atheist?
Hi, this is Jen, aka Child Free Sister. And I would say that I like to say, and you told me that I could cuss, so I'll just say I came out the coochie and atheist. Yeah, I've never bought into any of it. I'm black. My father was Jamaican, my mother is American, ADOS, as they like to call themselves these days.
Mhm.
And I was raised in the Baptist church. Everyone around me was in the church. In fact, the church was next door to our house. So on Sundays, I could hear the minister, I could hear the choir and all of that. But it never made any sense to me, so I never bought into it. I mean, I did I was baptized as a child because all my friends were getting baptized, and you know growing up in the black church, there's a lot of peer pressure, and if you want to fit in as a child, if you want the approval of adults, which all children want, you go along with it. So yeah, I was raised in the church, but and I came out of a typical Christian black Baptist woman, but I have always been a non-believer atheist.
Yeah, and that's very very interesting because like I also grew up in the church, Pentecostal church, Pentecostal Haitians, so it we rarely ever hear someone especially if they're a black person say that they never believed before. Usually if that's the case, they were raised by non-believers themselves, which is already rare.
Yes.
So like how was it like growing up? You already told me like there's a lot of pressure in the church to do what they do. Of course, I understand that. Did those doubts ever, like, I know we talked about this before, but I want the audience to know, did those doubts ever bubble up and you ever say anything like, hey, this doesn't make sense? Like, how did they react to that?
Well, I would say that this is my opinion. I believe we were all born atheist. Like nobody is born believing in God unless you believe in that nonsense that, of children evangelicals, which is, from what I hear, really big in Brazil. You've got, I'm sure you've heard about that culture of
Mhm.
child prodigies who are evangelicals. Like children don't come out believing, knowing they're Jewish, knowing they're Muslim, knowing they're whatever. They come out and then they're told who they are. And
Correct.
so I was told that, God was a thing, and that I was, all the things you're told. Like I remember, the Bible, what is it? The now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep if I die before I wake. And I got that version. Apparently there's a more
There's more.
kinder, gentler version, but I got the die before I wake. So I, as a child, I believed in Santa Claus. I believed in the Easter. I believed in all of it.
Mhm.
But at least with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, I got stuff. No,
Mhm.
at least with the tooth fairy, I got something.
Mhm.
With what, all I got was fear, and I was the kind of child, the type of child that if it didn't make sense to me, it just didn't. I internalized it. Don't get me wrong, but I
Mhm.
still just, it didn't sit right with me. Like it was like, yes, this is what I'm told, this is what I'll go along with, because when I do this, the adults applaud, the adults love it, and also the other kids. Let's be clear, it wasn't just the adults, the kids in the church who have swallowed the Kool-Aid,
Mhm.
eaten the freaking, the what we used to have, like the grape juice and the matzah, broken matzah. They ate all that, and then they
Mhm.
looked at me like, why are you throwing a fit? I was the type of kid on Sundays where I would be kicking and screaming. I wanted to go home and watch cartoons. I really
Mhm.
did. And every Sunday I would throw a fit. And also, I was the kind of kid where in Sunday school, because I was like, oh, Sunday school, it's school. And I liked school. I liked learning. And I thought, oh, I can ask questions. But I was asking the wrong questions.
Mhm.
So, you know what I mean? It was like Sunday school was not about, exploring and encouraging children to challenge and explore and understand. No, it was like this is indoctrination. And I made the mistake of asking the wrong question in Sunday school. And the answers I got were not making sense. And so I would be kicking and screaming every Sunday morning, and kids would just look at me shaking their head like, why don't you do this? You're embarrassing us. Can we just go upstairs already? It'll be over sooner than you realize.
Uh-huh.
And so I definitely internalized it because you can internalize everything,
Of
but
course.
I didn't internalize it in the way that it made me not quite not once I realized I had a choice,
Mhm.
I chose the one that made sense, if that makes sense.
No, no, I mean it makes total sense. Like, it was the same thing for me. Like growing up in Sunday school, there were a lot of things that when they would finally tell us the real story, like this doesn't make a lot of sense, and I would ask a lot of questions. I think my first ever question was, where did Cain's wife come from? That was my first ever question because it was Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel. And my first question, and then they always say Cain killed Abel, and then they said Cain went to the land of Nod where he found his wife. And I always ask, where did Cain's wife come from? That was my first ever question. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, yo, you said that he got married to his sister, and I'm like 8 years. I'm like, ew, because at that point when you're 8 years old, girls are still ew. So it's like now it's
Yeah.
your sister. It's like ew. Well, what
Yeah.
was your first question?
So so as you know, since you know me from like whenever we've had like Black Atheist Club on Clubhouse,
Hmm.
you'll enjoy interviewing my husband because he knows all this Bible stuff. My reasons for not liking church were very childish and very simple. It was boring. It was boring, and I wanted to stay home and watch cartoons. It wasn't because like a Bible story. It
Uh,
was because I like fairy tales. I loved, I was, maybe different for boys. Like, oh yeah, Cinderella and whatever, Snow White. It wasn't that it didn't make sense. It was simply that as a girl, a black girl in a black church, I didn't wear stockings, uncomfortable shoes, my butt on a hard ass pew for
mhm.
9 hours. Church is
Them
forever,
chills, bro.
black church. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm bored, I'm in pain, I'm suffering. That was my reasons for not liking it. That was
Mhm.
my reasons. Not even so much, oh, this story didn't make any sense. It was more like, this is boring. I don't want to be bored when I could be home watching cartoons. Why am I putting myself through this? And another thing, the type of church I went to, it was always drama.
Mhm.
It was before World Star, but it would have been on World Star. So the church I went to, drama, ushers and deacons taking sides. Some people like the minister, some people like the assistant minister. My mom was on one minister's team, some people were on another, and so they would fight. People would come to blows, there would be arguments in the church. And as a child, I think that was
Mm,
the first time I saw this, thinking, this doesn't sound right. This doesn't sound legit. You
mhm,
guys talk about obedience and you talk about goodness and being good, but you guys are fighting.
mhm,
That's the part that didn't make sense. Another thing is I was very much a bookworm growing up. One of my first job as a child was working in a library. So I was a big into reading books, and when I would read books, I would have questions. And when I would ask those questions in church, I would be made an example of. I literally remember being put in front of the church one day and having them almost like punk me. Like, yeah, come let Jennifer come up and tell us what she's learned. And I came up there like a like just not understanding that I was going to get punked. And
mhm,
and maybe I was questioning the color of God, like because I saw a picture of Jesus and it was white. And I asked that question. And I remember in my particular church, it said across the pulpit, the Lord is in his holy temple. And I was reading books about like, girls and like women and like, the origins of patriarchy, because, yeah.
mhm.
And why is it his? And I got made an example of immediately.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and man, now something like that didn't happen. That's really strict because something like that didn't happen at our church, but you would see them discourage it a lot. They would more look at you and like don't question God's word type of stuff. But to make an example out of you, that really stifles a lot of child's, like, well, I would say intellect. I mean curiosity. That's that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That stifles a lot of childhood curiosity, and
y-
you're not the first one I heard of them having that too. That's happened to multiple people in the black church. Like, do you
Yeah.
think they did that mostly to the girls, or it was just
So,
all children?
so my background, and so you started, I think one of the questions is, were you, raised atheist? What did you become atheist? One of my, we can go into this later, but like one of the questions I hate the most is
Mhm,
when people ask me, was I raised atheist? I'm black.
mhm.
Cameras are off, but fun fact, I'm like, the likelihood of me being raised atheist is
Very-
almost like negative zero. So when that
Yeah.
question comes up, it's like, it just irritates me because obviously I was not raised atheist. Like black people, I remember when I was growing up, people were going from, oh, they're rejecting Christianity to embracing Islam. Like we got to embrace something woo woo. We've got to embrace some religion. No matter what we're doing, we're embracing something. So we're embracing faith. No. And I say that to say that for me, it's like I grew up in a very typical Black Baptist church
Mhm,
where you had the Easter play, on Easter Sunday with the white patent leather shoes. I want people to understand how typical my childhood was in terms of the church. And absolutely not. Black
mhm,
children, especially Black girl children, were not supposed to question anything. The whole point of religion was to teach obedience.
mhm.
And I've said this before. I think for people who are former slaves, we are, obsessed with obedience to an extreme degree, like obsessed with obedience. I mean, we were former slaves, and yet somehow our biggest flex is to make our children mental slaves, former, like literally obedience. Like that was it. Questioning, like a friend of mine, and I'm not an expert on Judaism, but from what I understand, the little that I do know is that even in Judaism, you're allowed to, like children, I think part of their bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah is, you can kind of question the rabbi, you can actually pose issues and questions. That is not how the Black church worked, at least not the Black Baptist. And I'm working class, by the way. So
Mhm.
I did not go to one of the newfangled woke churches. I went to a church where it was very, very clear all of the hierarchy in the church. The
Yeah.
pastor, male on top, the pastor's wife on top, next to him side by side.
Mhm,
Um, and another thing that drew me to question religion, again, not the scripture. I love you atheists who know the Bible inside and out. You take one for the team. I don't know anything about the Bible inside and out. Again, I love books. So I was like, there's so many other books I could be reading instead of this boring crap. We had a gay organist in our church, and I will never forget how cruelly he was treated. Even as a
mhm.
child, I remember thinking, there's something wrong with all the shade that this
Yeah.
man, and I knew that he was gay as a child. You kind of know things even though they don't tell you. And the way they would talk about him from the pulpit, and it was so mean and it was so cruel. And I remember thinking, with all the drama and fighting, with all the meanness and cruelty, something's not right.
Mhm,
And back to what you were saying about being a girl, I do, just to level set, so we can even like level set this. I'm I am a feminist, and my atheism is intersectional, as you know.
mhm,
So I do feel like I approach atheism from a gendered perspective as well.
mhm,
And in my experience, a lot of atheism is male centered. Not just when it's not white male centered, it's Black male centered.
mhm,
And I feel like for me coming at it, I'm coming at it from someone who was born and raised in the church as a girl. So there was that double bind of, look at the color of God or look at the color of Jesus, and also look at the gender of who's in charge,
mhm.
who's doing the labor of the church, and who has the hierarchy and the authority in the church, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. So I come at atheism from that perspective.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Like I've been this is something that we're gonna get into all the way at the end, but when I look at quote unquote, a lot of people kind of disagree with this terminology, but like atheist culture, you know what I'm saying? When I look at like how it is, we already know about the four horsemen of new atheism, Hitchens, Dawkins, and I forgot the other two. But basically, just like how you said, it's for white dudes. Yeah, I mean, for old white dudes. And the problem of it being male censored and like white male censored, especially, is exactly what you said. Because Dawkins just said, like, I think the other day, like last week, that he's a cultural Christian. And you'll see that a lot with white atheism, or the white side of atheism, and even the black side of atheism. A lot of us as black men haven't deconstructed misogyny and patriarchy yet. We don't believe in this stuff anymore, but the entire male leader household type of thing, we're still on in that mindset. We haven't deconstructed it yet. That actually leads me to the next part. When I personally deconstructed from religion, I started deconstructing a lot of things, just like how you said there was the homosexual, there was a LGBT person at your church, and he was treated cruelly. We didn't have that at my church, but I knew that we believed in very, very cruel things about, LGBTQ people. And I think me deconstructing from religion and becoming an atheist helped me deconstruct from a lot of like political and social views I had as well. I know with your upbringing, when you see that a lot of girls, especially yourself, was treated unfairly by the system, did that also encourage you to read into a lot of these misogynist and patriarchal system and how religion influenced it?
So just to put all of my, I don't know what they call them, like my identities out there.
Mhm.
I am on here because I'm black, I'm an atheist. And the kind of atheist I am, just to clarify, I'm not a science atheist. I'm not a nerd, and I am a nerd, but I'm a different kind of nerd. I'm not a science nerd. I'm not a physics and matter and different realms. And no, 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 no. That's not the kind of atheist I am. Like he's that kind of atheist, like all this other, Lot and Job. And look, no,
Yeah, yeah, I got
I am an atheist because church was boring as hell. And if I
you.
wanted to do boring things like science, because I don't like science is fine, I leave it to the experts. I am not that kind of atheist. Also, I am a feminist, or often reluctantly a feminist. I am also child free, as the name suggests.
Mhm,
I'm also child free by choice. That means I don't have kids and I don't want kids. It also, I'm also, introverted. Um, and I bring all those things to the table,
mhm,
and so I say that to say, in terms of like my atheism, that the only thing that I have in common with other atheists is really we don't believe in God for our own reasons. That's the only thing. Same thing with child free people. The only thing we have in common is we don't have kids by choice. There's really no other thing. And even with like black atheists, I haven't had the best experience with other atheists, other black atheists.
mhm.
And it's just been, because I feel like this is something I think about a lot. I'm against extremism in all forms. So my whole thing is I don't believe that there is one answer to every question. And
Or
also, in terms of, you talked about gender, I got my feminism from books, not YouTube.
mhm,
So that sets me apart from the current narrative of people who are purely concerned with, dating and, these gender dynamics. And
ooh
I'll leave
boy.
it at that. I came out the coochie an atheist. I believe I also came out the coochie a feminist.
Mhm,
And I saw things around me. The first thing I noticed is that girls were treated differently than boys.
right.
First thing in my black ass community, that's what I noticed first. And I will say this, I identify as a woman before black, and I have to. That was imposed on me. That was imposed on me. And I know we're going to probably talk about dating later, but I'll just say this. The first black male atheist I met, hot stuff, like OMG. There is nothing hotter than a man who thinks for himself. There's nothing sexier than a man who lives without fear. Then I met my second black male atheist, dried up like the Sierra. And I say this, and I'm like, wow, I guess I really got a good one. The first one, like literally the first black male atheist I met, never heard a black man talk like that. Never heard a black, and he didn't, it was unprovoked. He just started talking about religion, shitting on religion. I'm like, yeah, more of that, please. Tell me more. Tell me more. And it was great. And then I met another one, and it was like, wait, they're not all like that. Some of them are misogynists. Just
Mhm,
because you question religion doesn't mean you question male privilege and patriarchy and all your and homophobia. Like, classism, like you're talking about the four horsemen. Are they questioning white supremacy? No. They question what they want. They question what is convenient. We all do. We all do. And yeah,
Yeah, and exactly that's exactly why I've always said that, when it comes to like the atheist kind of like movement or community as we call it, there needs to be a new face, man, because like these guys, they're completely out of touch, completely out of touch. And man, Mandisa Thomas and I think a few other black women atheists were saying the same thing. These guys are completely out of touch with, not only just intersectionality, but the visibility of minority atheists. They're out of touch with that. But we'll get into that later. That's a little social political thing. We'll get into that later. I want to know, of course, as you know, as you said, as black people, usually our entire family in our entire community is one religion or the other. Me, when I first came out as being a PK, a pastor's child, when I come out, when I tell, the people I grew up with that, I don't believe in this stuff anymore, they're shocked. They tell me what happened. We all thought you was gonna be some big preacher, but of course that's me. But my nickname growing up was Brain, like the Brain. They always knew I was like the guy that read and always knew everything. You see what I'm saying? So it's not really surprising, but it's more disappointing because they thought that I'll be one of those intellectuals who go on to be a pastor. You see what I'm saying? I didn't turn out that way. Now you never believed, and you always questioned, but when you finally confirmed it that hey, I don't believe in this stuff, how did your family react? Were they upset? Were they angry? Or they were like, ah, we already knew that shit. How are they?
that's funny. So full disclosure, before I don't know if I even understood what an atheist was. I initially identified as pagan or heathen.
Mhm,
So and also I was really into, so again, I came into consciousness, as they used to say, through reading like Alice Walker
mhm,
and Bell Hooks and Audre Lorde and June Jordan and Antezake Shange. And for those of you who don't know who Antezake Shange is, she's the author. She's a playwright of, Their Eyes Were Not Their Eyes Were Gone, the For Color Girls for who've considered suicide when the rainbow is enough, and
mhm,
other books. And their writing is very, I don't know other term besides spiritual. So I was, as a child, building altars and things like that. And I would go outside and I would like, I don't want to say commune with nature, but I enjoyed being outside a lot. And I
mhm,
was very much into collecting like rocks and stones, just doing things that were just like, this makes me feel whole in a way that being in church does not. This makes me feel connected in a way that being in church does not. I wrote poetry as a child. I was really into short stories and stuff like that. And I say that to say that the first person to call them, one of my childhood friends, she called herself an atheist. She's black.
mhm.
And I remember at the time thinking, atheist. I don't know if I would say that, because even then it was like, "Wha- that sounds a bit harsh, you
Yeah,
know? But I knew I didn't believe in God. I knew I believed in like when Antezake Shange's, in her play, when she says, I found God in myself and I loved her fiercely, that was probably my first quote unquote religion, of
gotcha.
finding God in myself and finding this idea of, how Christians are always, they have this persecution complex. Well, what is more persecuted than little black girls, right? So when I came into puberty and I started to, notice boys, and then you get like slut shamed and things that things that, older black women tell black girls, like, oh, you're smelling yourself. And she, and in patois, she thinks she feisty, that kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like, there is that, oh, it's all starting to connect the dots. And like
Mhm,
you were talking about, oh, you were considered the brain. I think black girls who question are going to be demonized and shunned and
mhm.
marginalized. Like I was told, oh, you're just going to get pregnant, you're just going to end up, being nothing, because I question, because you're disobedient. Disobedience, especially for females, for black girls, is this kiss of death. That is why people feel like the most, we're talking about respectability politics, like that's a whole other topic, but just being obedient is the biggest effing flex. And it's
Yeah,
like, and just questioning is something that will damn you to hell. Now, keep in mind, I did good in school, I stayed out of trouble for the most part, but because I didn't swallow the Kool Aid, all I did was get caste dispersions. And it was like the things that we value in girls, obedience more than anything, is just my feminism saved me. Like,
Mhm.
I definitely think I was raised to be a pick but then bell hooks intervened and scooped me up and said, "Not on my watch."
Mhm.
And I needed her in tandem though with atheism. I need it because I feel like just straight atheism is not going to save you if you don't have that understanding of how gender works.
Right. No, actually, yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. I agree with that. I have had, when I left religion, I did have trouble like trying to find a difference of spirituality, and just like how you said, reading books, being outside, and listening. Me, it was music because I'm a big hip hop fan, so listening to a lot of Nas and stuff like that is what helped me center spirituality again, or what we call it. But basically, yeah, I do agree with that. When I was young, I would see that as well. The girls would be called like either fast or disobedient for questioning, but the boys, if we weren't called intellectual, we'll just call rebellious. You know what I mean? Which is it will still be bad, but we wouldn't be cast out. We would just say you're being rebellious and you need to be brought back in. Like they would discipline us a different way. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Because rebellious, even if you're a rebellious person,
Hmm.
it's still it still sounds sexy. You know what I mean? Being a
Yeah.
rebellious person is still sexy, but being disobedient is
Hmm.
something completely different. And
Yeah.
that's what I would see the difference between the boys and the girls. Because when I was a child and I had questions, I'd be like, oh, he's intellectual. But when I became a teenager and had questions, he's rebellious. But
Yeah.
it's not as bad as being disobedient
Yeah.
because you see what I'm saying? So that's
Yeah.
you did point out something that yeah that I noticed that as a teenager where girls were treated different, and that was probably my around my first time questioning patriarchal roles. I was always like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, what's funny about that is that when I noticed that, right, literally the week after, they were having a discussion on whether women should preach, and I'm sitting here thinking about this, right? And they all asked me, Brain, what do you think? And I said, why are we having a discussion of why women should preach or not? If God gave her the gift, why can't she preach? You know what I mean? And everybody looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, what did I say? Why can't women preach? I don't understand it. You know what I mean? And I think that right there was my first time ever questioning gender roles. I had to be like 16 at that point. So think about it, 16 years of all this. But if that conversation never happened, I would never question gender roles. See
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah, this idea of boys will be boys, that's something you are raised and conditioned to believe as a child, especially as a girl child. It's like, so when something happens, when the disrespect starts to happen, and I want to say when you hit puberty, but even before then, when you start to when men clock you, start to notice you as a female child, it's like suddenly boys will be boys. So any attention you get is, well, boys will be boys. It's your fault, you
Yeah.
know? And that is, if I'm being, you know that is what actually drew me to feminism, is the feminism of telling, well, maybe at the time it was kind of warped for me, but it was like, well, if boys could do it, I could do it too. And so
Mhm.
my first feminism was like that sex posy type feminism of, well, if boys could do it and I get a bad reputation, and the reputation is because I'm a girl, like that didn't sit right. It doesn't say right. You're telling me if I do the same thing he does, he's going to tell everybody in town and everyone's going to give me the side eye,
Mhm.
but he's fine. And that again comes from the church. And yet, I'm the one with the scarlet letter because I get pregnant, he doesn't. So my feminism, at my first iteration of feminism, was, if boys can do it, I can do it too, and I'm going to deal with the repercussions, and they can say what they want. I literally had a scarlet letter, and I'll just put out there, my reputation growing up was that of, oh, well, she does what she wants. She's for the
Mhm.
streets. But the thing is, I was for the streets, but I was also for the books. And they couldn't handle that part. Literally, I was for the books. Like, I was going from school to the library, getting all this knowledge, armed with it, and doing what I want. But it was still like, if you don't give your life to God, you're still not going to be good enough. It is so, I feel like for me, and I'll just put it out there, I think religion is child abuse. I think exposing children, especially black children, the way that black children are exposed to religion, it is absolutely child abuse. And the reason I say that is because they have to unlearn it. It's first, it's against their will. They're being taught something against their will. They're being taught to fear something they can't see against their will, and they ultimately have to unlearn it in order to be free. When people talk about, church hurt or whatever, or therapy later on, like they can't even seek out therapy unless it is religious based, because they are so conditioned to believe that the only way to get in tune with oneself is through a higher being, God. Like we were talking about us trying to find a certain spirituality, and I'm using air quotes. Again, it's like, how do you find it? For me, it was about the ancestors. For
Mhm.
me, it was about these women who I'd never met, Belle, Zora Hurston, June Jordan, they were the women who were my gods. If I could put on the face of Mount Rushmore, my own feminist Mount Rushmore, it would have been Zora, it would have been Alice, it would have been Audrey, it would have been June, it would have been Antizak. I guess that's more than four, but you know what I'm saying. And yet, so that was it for me. It's like, how do you even, you can't be in tune with yourself unless you believe in a higher being, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and the thing is, that's the thing I've always find really, really weird, right? Because I already know, like, if I get a larger platform, people are gonna go through my Twitter feed and they're gonna see what I said about Jesus. The reason why I don't care about that is because, like, I might talk shit about Jesus,
Oh, is
but
that your cat?
yeah, it's my cats. That's my cats. Yeah, they just woke up. The mama's feeding them now. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. I can hear my cats for a little bit, but yeah. But the thing is, what gets to me is that they indoctrinate these children with with all this religion type of stuff, right? And if you really truly read, well, I know you didn't read it, but I read a lot of what Jesus wanted and what he said to do and stuff like that. They don't even care about what Jesus said, bro. Like they really don't. Jesus said, feed the naked, feed the hungry and clothe the naked. Ain't not every time a homeless person passes by their window, they're gonna roll that bitch up. You see what I'm saying? Every time, like, if a person is struggling or God forbid they're part of the LGBT community, they're gonna kick them out their house with a quickness. They don't clothe the naked or feed the hungry. They don't care about none of that. You see what I'm saying? And it always gets to me is it's like y'all, like, I would say this, like, atheists are better Christians than Christians are. Atheists are better Muslims than Muslims are. You see what I'm saying? Because y'all don't even care about any of that shit. Y'all don't care about haram. Y'all don't care about sins. Y'all don't care about none of that because you all do it anyway. But if you go back, but since you go to Sunday, or I think Muslims do it on Thursday night or Friday night, and listen to the imam or listen to the preacher or whatever, and pray your 5 times a day and do all your communion shit, you think you're good. And it's really like the arrogance is what gets to me because Christians would be like, the whole blessed and highly favored thing. Muslims would be, they're like, the most humble and moral people out there and shit like that. The arrogance is there, but if you look at their lives, if you look at their attitudes, you know what I'm saying? It's like if you look at the book that they actually read, it warns against being arrogant. And they're some of the most arrogant people on the planet. All right, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I'm sorry, my cat. My kitten is.
That's so cute. You know, I'm a pet person. But that's adorable. No, I just want to say real quick, it's great that you brought this up because I'm always reading something. I'm currently reading this book, and honestly, Vose, I highly recommend you read it.
Mhm,
It's called The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory: American Evangelicals in the Age of Extremism by Tim Alberta.
mhm.
And
I
the
got.
book is amazing because he talks about the very thing you mentioned about. So first of all, this is something I did not know. Um so just like, there are, I guess there are, anti-Trump, or what are they called, never Trump Republicans, like Republicans who are like never Trump, like Mitt Romney, never Trump. There are also evangelicals who are never Trumpers. And if most of us know that the right, the evangelical right, has that is literally the party of Trump, or the religion of Trump now. Like, and they have been fighting a very secretive war, because I had no idea, in the evangelical world, against Trump. A lot of ministers and a lot of these churches have been fighting. Oh, is that a is a kitten?
Yeah, that was kidding. This is my little.
Oh, he's so small. Okay, enough because I can
I'm
go
sorry.
on.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Where was I? Distracted.
Yeah, sorry. This is the Civil War and evangelicalism, the secret Civil War.
Yes. And one of the I had no idea that they were doing a lot of the churches have been at war within each other because there are people who are like Trump is toxic. This is
Mhm,
not who we should be. This is not who we should worship. And like you said, Jesus was about the needy, welcoming the poor, the the migrant, people who need help, the homeless, not about conspiracy theories, not about being at war with our communities, not about hatred. You're embracing a man who is literally, admitting to sexual assault. Like, where is the good? Like, they're fighting. We don't know about it because it's almost like they're very quiet about it because we're not in the church, we're not in their community. I think we hear more about it with the Republican Party, but even within the evangelical community, there have been people like I think one of the right-handers at Liberty University stepped down because
mhm,
he spoke out against Trump and he
mhm.
got removed. And then this
Oh,
man who used to be a part of the Christian Baptist Convention, which is huge, the Christian Baptist, whatever they're called,
yeah.
he's like, nope, this is not working for me.
He got,
Um,
yep.
it's like, yeah, again, my reason for being an atheist is because I want to be a part of the kind table. I want to be about the people who are willing to welcome. The one thing I love about being an atheist is I can walk in the world without judging people
Mhm.
because they're gay, because of who they are. I'm not trying to convert someone to some we're going to talk about that. I am not one of those atheists who wants to convert people to atheism. I I'm not. I'm not. I don't believe that it should be imposed on. I don't believe religion should be imposed on children. I think children are probably already here born without any kind of faith. But I
Mhm.
also am not the kind of atheist that wants to get on the internet and argue with theists all day.
I feel you. I feel you. We're gonna get into into that part later, but before we get into that, I definitely want to segue a little bit, and because you talked about the male atheists that you met before, because I definitely want to get your opinion on that. With me, when I first became an atheist, and I asked this to other male atheists that I've spoken to. One problem that we always ran into is that when, especially in the black community, like you've said before, black women love them some Jesus. Black women love some Jesus. Just like how you said, every time we go to therapy, they want to seek a religious based one because they love them some Jesus. And one thing that issue that I had going into the dating scene was that I would always they would always either find out that I'm atheist later and cut it off. So I just started saying it, putting my cards out there, right? One thing that I would get was like, oh, that's cool, but we can't get serious. However, every Friday night, Saturday night, you could, come over a little bit. And I started to find that, very, very like very toxic and very dehumanizing because it's like I'm a human at the end of the day. I still want, emotional connection. I don't just want to hit it every Saturday. You know what I'm saying? But because
Or
of
every
my
Sunday.
every Sunday, yeah. But because of my non-religion, they would, cut it off. So I definitely want to hear about your experience as a black woman atheist and going out there and dating, and how did the men react to you? Because I know a lot of us black men are also super religious.
Yeah. So in terms of my family dynamic, my mother was, of course, the one who lived in the church. She was the usher. My father was a better person than her, but he never really was into the church. He would do what most men do, go to church, to just to please her,
Mhm,
on Easter, whatever. And in terms of date, I believe that I could be in a relationship with a theist. And I actually was, I've only really been in relationships with black men, so I've usually it never really became an issue until I was really like, I'm looking for something real and serious. If you're looking for something real and serious, it's an issue. If you're just trying to do the booty gospel, we're
yeah.
fine. Like, I don't care. Like, what I mean? I don't care what you believe. You know what I mean? It's all the same, whatever. But when I'm looking for a relationship, it's like, obviously I want to be with someone who's my intellectual match, someone who is my, mental match, someone who is going to understand how I move in the world, and my sense of humor as well. And so I was in a relationship for 5 years with someone who was a theist, like a big time theist, huge theist. Like, I mean, he was Nigerian. I'll just put it out there. And he was very much the typical Nigerian, always in the church, always in the church, Sundays, Saturdays and Sundays in the church, and every New Year's Eve in the church. It was insane. If I wanted to be with him on New Year's Eve, as you should be as a couple, you're in a couple, we're in a relationship. And everything about him was like just religion. Like even my relationship with my family, he approached it from that perspective of religion. Like, oh, you have to respect, your family, even if they're toxic, because da 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 da. It was just, but he had other qualities. And then we felt our things didn't work out mutually. And
Mhm.
then, like clockwork, I met my first black male atheist. And that was hot. All I
Mhm.
gotta say is hot. I can't speak for men. I can't speak for dudes. I cannot speak for dudes, but I do believe a lot of women are what they say sapiosexual.
Mhm.
Men, they don't understand the words that come out of their mouth determine a lot of things about us physically. When you speak and say things that are hot, you get us hot.
Mhm.
And to be with a man for 5 years who was all about that bullshit, and then this dude who would not shut up about how awful religion was, it was just the sexiest thing ever. I was like, keep talking, just keep running your mouth. I can't even explain it. It was the sexiest thing ever. And I know if you're a black female atheist, you
Mhm.
know what the hell I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, especially when you didn't ask for it and you're like, whoa, I didn't ask for this, but I guess God works in mysterious ways. Wouldn't he
Always.
do it? Can't he do it? He didn't even know he was doing it. And the thing is, because, like, again, being a black female atheist, they assume being a
Mhm.
black woman, they assume you want religion. They assume you want a man of God. I want you better be a man of dog. Like
Mhm.
seriously, I don't must love must love dogs. I don't want a man who is afraid of a supernatural being. Are you insane? Why would I want that? And I think a lot of us black women are confused
Mhm.
because we think that if he fears God, he's going to act right.
No, 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 the fuck he ain't. No,
What? The minister not even acting right.
exactly. No, he ain't. No, he ain't. He's gonna say,
Where
"I'm not a perfect man. Only God is perfect." That's all he gonna say.
where has that ever worked? How's that working out for you though? How is that working out for us collectively if he believes in God that he's going to behave? It is weird. It is weird. And one of my family members, she big time evangelical freak, black. She met a freaking before I met like I was like dating at the time I was single. She met a guy who was an atheist. What?
Mhm.
Send him my way. Send him my way. And I would meet guys who were, theists, and I would send them her way because I'm
Mhm.
like, hey, let's exchange because I don't like this. So my point is, once you meet someone who is an atheist, it is hard to go back to that bullshit. It is hard because they want to be taken seriously. I do believe that most men do not go as hard as women do. Women are always going to go harder for, I believe in, for patriarchy than men. Like it's weird. Like I don't think patriarchy could survive if it wasn't for the way we put in work. And I do believe black women go harder for it than men do. But and I have been rejected by men for being an atheist. I have some like old text messages where like, oh, it says you're an atheist on your profile. Is that true? And I'm like, yeah, it's true. He's like, okay, well, we can't go any further. I'm like, well, thanks. Dodged a bullet, Um, works for me.
Yeah.
I don't care. Um, yeah. But then again, I would meet other black male atheists, and I realized it's not one size fits all. I did meet black male atheists who are like most, I believe a lot of men, very arrogant and, just arrogant. And I can't stand the arrogance. I think there's a fine line, just like I think there are men who identify as feminists who are very arrogant and they think they know gender, they know feminism better than me. It's almost like a way of being superior, like mansplaining. Like, you can't mansplain to me gender and feminism, and like but they'll use atheism to be intellectually superior to others. Cannot stand that. I don't like anyone who takes themselves too goddamn seriously.
Mhm.
So yeah, but I will say that I think atheists and theists can date and be in relationships only if it's mutual respect. But
Hmm.
luckily for me, my husband is an atheist and he's black.
Hmm.
And he's so hardcore an atheist. How hardcore an atheist is he? He's so hardcore. He doesn't entertain astrology. He doesn't entertain anything. And I'm a dog person, as you
Hmm.
know. As she's like, yeah, I know. I'm in the group chat. And I refer to dogs as angels because they are. I don't care. And so one time I texted him, oh my God, I just saw an angel today. I saw the most beautiful angel today. And he writes back, angels aren't real. I'm talking about a damn dog. Can't I just have this one thing? He know it. He knew it. It's like,
Yeah, no, he did that to annoy me because I did the same thing to my fiance. I be knowing what she's
okay.
talking about. I
Oh
know
my
what she's talking
God.
about.
Was she talking about a dog or was she talking about a real angel?
Yeah, she's talking about a dog. We're like, yeah, I know what she's talking about. I do the same thing. Oh man, she like, damn, you know what I was talking about. Oh yeah, you should send that to message. That's cute. But yeah, I agree. As long as there's mutual respect, and I think that was the issue in my last relationship, where it wasn't mutual respect, or where it comes to women that I was entertaining after that, it was the same thing. It wasn't mutual respect. You know what I'm saying? Just like you said, it was basically booty gospel. You know what I mean? Like on Saturday, I would see her, and she'd be like, "Oh, come to this place on Sunday." And we're like, "Oh, I don't believe it." It's like, "It's okay, just come on. It's a thing to get like you should still be around people and get community and get wisdom and stuff like that." I'm like, yeah, sure. I could probably get wisdom somewhere or whatever. I got nothing to do on Sunday. I'll go. Yeah, I mean, and then I go, and you're wearing skin tight jeans with high heels. I know what you're doing. You wearing skin tight. Come on, sis. I know what you're doing. You want me to see something accentuated there. Like I get it. But yeah, that used to happen a lot. Let's circle back around because you said a little something about debating Christians online and stuff. Now you know me. I love to kind of do that. Now my approach to it is to basically um like normalize atheism. You know what I'm saying? Because of course, people like us aren't normalized a lot, which is the exactly reason why I started this entire interview series because I want us to be like viewed as normal people. You'll be surprised how many black folks out there that I've even talked to on TikTok that didn't know that there were black atheists out there or that believe that we are like very very hateful. You see what I'm saying? Or even worship the devil. I've seen that. Trust me, there's still a lot of ignorance out there. So that's really my approach to normalizing us. And I've always asked people, uh, what should the approach be when it comes to Black atheist visibility? Should we just simply focus on making our community, or should we be going out there, having discussions, debating people, making content, which is kind of what I focus on. But I think we can do the community as well. But a lot of people like just like how you said, I think you said that we should focus more on the community side and going out there and making content and debating people. What do you think? What's your like expound on that on how you think we should engage in this?
so I just want to go back real quick to black women being atheists. So, as a black woman, there are a lot of things that set me apart, not only being an atheist, but being child free, being a super dog person, being an introvert. These are things black women are not necessarily allowed to be, especially the
Mhm,
whole introverted thing. We're supposed to be extroverted, blah, 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 the loudest one in the room, whatever. Um, it is hard to connect with other black women, even in terms of, like, on social media, content influencers. I've had this I've wanted to open rooms on this topic. Like, they're black people I want to follow because they're black, but as soon as I do, they switch up on you and put some religious crap. And it's like, but I didn't follow you for this. I followed you for recipes. I followed you because you're into dogs, like I'm into dogs. I followed you because, for fitness, or, there's this chick that I used to follow because she's about, like, narcissistic abuse awareness, and she
mhm,
does it from a black perspective. And
mhm,
then one day she posted, and I mentioned the story to you once, and one day she posted something about Jesus. I'm like, out of nowhere, Jesus stuff. And I'm like, wait, Jesus, that whole religion is the biggest narcissistic religion, is the biggest MLM there is. Religion is the biggest narcissistic trap in the world. Like, are you insane? But I, to your point, the way I handle things is with humor a lot,
Hmm.
because and I make jokes and people don't like that. A lot of people of faith, they want to be taken seriously, but it's like, I can't take your supernatural stuff seriously, but I'll make a joke. And I made the so she said, type in here if you're a woman of God. She was talking about how her skin was glowing because of Jesus. And she's like, type in here if you're a woman of God. And I typed woman of dog. And she blocked
She
she
blood.
blocked me. And I'm like, really? Here's the thing. You're probably like, that's not funny. So I don't mind people making jokes at my expense as an atheist, because I don't take stuff so seriously enough. And I just have a very disturbed sense of humor. So one time back when I was living in New York, it was hot as hell. It was the hottest day ever. And I remember texting a friend, hey, hot enough for you? And he's like, yeah, yeah, it's definitely hot as hell. And he's just like, hot enough for you? And I said, of course it's hot enough for me. I'm an atheist. I'm ready for the heat, that kind of thing. Like, of course I'm ready. I've been training for this my whole life. You can't It's hard to offend me, because again, shit is a joke. Again, my if I was going to say my religion would be humor, my religion is comedy. I've had religious experiences at comedy shows, depending on the comedian. Like, there's a comedian who has been canceled. You can use your imagination who he is, white guy. He's been canceled, and he's got the initials CK. I went to a show that was this is back before he was canceled though.
Back before
That
it.
I left feeling like, so this is what people feel when they go to a church service and they feel renewed, cuz damn, everything was just like everything. And I feel like comedy is it's a thing that gets me through. It's a thing that helps me. It doesn't mean because I think I'm funny, but I think laughing at things helps people. And I feel like people of faith and theists, atheists and theists being able to laugh at each other. That's why, okay, one of my favorite plays. If you have not seen it, say, see it, the Book of Mormon. On, like, if it ever comes to your city, say, boy, you need to splurge and see it. It is worth every penny. It is funny as hell. Oh my God. And they make fun of Mormons, but they make fun of everything. And it is so important. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is, I will engage with theists with jokes,
Mhm.
but that's it. I don't want to debate them. I believe more focusing on community with atheists. That's why Black Atheist Club on Clubhouse, we're different. We vibe different. We are not opening rooms asking atheists anything.
Mhm.
Prove to me God is real. Like, why? Why would I do this? This
Mhm.
has it ever worked? That is my question. Like, I respect what you do because you do it very well. I don't have the energy for it. I'm trying to keep my energy, to chase my dogs around. Like, it takes a lot. I
Yes.
don't have, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have the energy because it's not going to work. People are more caught up in their egos. There is so much ego. Like, to me, and it's not just ego on the theist side. I think ego on the atheist side too. Quick story again. I've met a lot of asshole atheists too. And the asshole atheists I meet are the ones who, and I used to hear people say this, and you could tell me your view on it. And I know it's not completely aligned, but people who say that atheism is like a religion. And I used to think, oh, that's bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I started to meet some atheists though. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know about that anymore. Cause it's like, the first time I was triggered on Clubhouse, I went into this room. It was by a bunch of atheists, and it was like atheists from all over the world, a lot of African atheists on Clubhouse, as you know. And they were just, shitting on religion. Fine, I'm all for it. Let's do it. But it just got to the point where it was like, okay, and I think I've mentioned the story. There is a documentary about the Golden Gate Bridge. A lot of people unalive themselves on the Golden Gate Bridge. This gentleman jumped off the bridge and he somehow survived. And
Mhm.
I believe he survived because of a dolphin or some
Dolphins.
kind of, yeah, a dolphin saved him. And he was, being interviewed about that in the aftermath. And he said he believed that the dolphin was sent by God as a sign that he needed to live another day. And
Mhm.
even as an atheist, I'm over there, I'm tearing up. I mean, I have a heart. I mean, I am a heathen that, eats babies and worships Satan, but I still have a heart. I'm over here tearing up, like, and then I mentioned that story in that room, and they were like, he doesn't even know how marine life works. We don't want to encourage this kind of thing. That's toxic. That's dangerous. And I got removed from the room. I got blocked. It was crazy. I was like, what?
For what?
Those are not my people.
Yeah.
Those right there, not my people. Because if, just like you used to say, if you need religion not to commit crimes, by all means. If you need that dolphin to be God to live another day, by all means.
Yeah.
I'm not standing in, I'm a live and let live kind of atheist. I really am. And in terms of how we engage with other Black atheists or Black people of faith, what I ask is that you don't assume that we all believe what you believe. Don't
Mhm.
assume that I am, just because I'm Black, that I'm on board with your religious stuff. Give me the respect that I often see white people give each other, which is we don't discuss religion, we don't discuss politics. If this is not a political page, if this is not a religious page, leave that for that space. Don't, like, I was looking at this one chick that I was thinking about. She does like hair stuff. And then scrolling through her page, it looked great. Then she's just like, a post that says, it's not luck, it's God.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Exactly. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I completely feel you, right? And I think that's part of the motivation of what I do, because like we cannot go to any page, any because we share stuff on Instagram all the time, spiritual world, shade room, on site, things from other Black websites that are all supposed to be about entertainment, but every 3 business days is something about God. Always, always thinking about God. I think that's what motivated me to do a lot what I do, to actually confront some of this stuff, because it's like they throw religions in us, like they throw religion at us all the time. It could be just like how you said about hair, it could be about dogs, it could be about fitness. I follow a lot of Black fitness pages. God again. You see what I'm saying? So it's like if they have monopolized every single space, and we have such a small voice, which is why I think I do what I do. You know what I'm saying? Now, like I think I completely agree with you though. We should be focusing on we should have a large focus on our community, because they have such a large voice and we have such a small one. There's not a lot of room to speak out. And just like how you said, there's a lot of jerk offs out there, a lot of asshole atheists. You know what I mean? And they give, basically, I would say us a bad name because of how they act. But because we have such a small voice, I think that's the reason why I do what I do. Yeah, you see what I mean?
I
You there, Jen? Hey, Jen, you on mute?
Oops, sorry.
No.
Okay, you would not believe the speech I just gave. Okay. I'm joking. No, I just think that gives people the impression that atheists are just itching for a fight. We exist to itch for a debate. We itch to to deal with Christians and atheists. I mean, and theists. It's like when I was living with my family, when I was being raised in my Christian household, religion was, everywhere. My mother with her daily words and her Bibles everywhere, and then the church ladies always in our business. Anytime there was a family issue, had to be the minister involved. That was my life with my family. But when I moved into my own adult universe, I didn't think about religion because it wasn't a part of my life. I didn't have to think about it. And then when I started to date, exclusively atheist men, once we're both atheists, like we don't have nothing to talk about. Maybe we
Yeah,
joke about some stuff. Maybe if something happens, we joke about it together or talk about it, but it's not a part of my orbit. I do not live to deal with theists and debate theists and convince theists. I feel like we always complain about there's no, oh, the reason why people are drawn to religion is because it gives them community. Well, how about we build community? You know what I mean? And is it like, why don't we build our own community instead of trying to always engage with them? It's like we are not in opposition to them. Like we don't have to be. I mean, if we don't like, I feel like people are more vested in converting theists than they are in communing with other atheists. We need support.
I
It
got
to
you.
be an atheist, especially to be a Black atheist or an atheist of color. and not just black, because I mean Latinos, Asian Americans, it's highly religious communities, highly deeply entrenched in Christianity. Latinos and Asian Americans, which we often forget, and like we need to be able to be there for each other more than we need to be fighting with theists. It's weird. It's giving insane. Come on. Like, I'm not saying there isn't a time to deal with these people, and I have. You've seen what I do online sometimes when I tell a joke and then I trigger these usually black women who come
Mhm.
for me. Then okay, I'm going to sharpen my little tools. I can be the nicest or the meanest atheist you ever meet, depending
Mhm.
on how you come for me. But I just feel like it is a waste of time. It is a waste of energy, and it doesn't. This is what I think. If you are a person of faith, will find atheism. You will find us. We don't have to go to you. You're going to come to us because you're
Mhm.
going to notice all the bullshit hypocrisy. All these black women who want a man of God, and all these men of God are doing awful things. Eventually, they're going to be like, you know what? I'm doing the same thing, looking for the same thing, and having the same result. Maybe I should start checking for these atheist men and these agnostic men because these men of God they're not doing the way they're supposed to be doing. Maybe then, to me, they're going to come for us. And in the meantime, we have that community and support system for each other. And in terms of how we show up in spaces, what I would say to the theists is just like for women, for example, right? The default is motherhood. It's like black people, we get religion. If you follow a woman, it's going to be eventually motherhood and mommy stuff and mommy this and children and babies and nana goo goo, all that. No, the default for women is not motherhood, nor is the default for blackness religion and faith.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see that point. I could agree with that because the entire reason I even started all this was to have community because we didn't have it. Finding Clubhouse and me just searching if there was a black atheist on Clubhouse, which is how I met you and V and everybody else. Was I'm glad I did that because we didn't have community. That's why I started the Discord. That's why I invited started this platform so people can see that there's an actual community out there. Yeah, see what I mean? Now I do think like within the community there is quote unquote like roles. You know what I mean? Like for example, defenders. Of course, the Christian's gonna have the defenders of the faith. You know what I'm saying? I think the way that we kind of debaters basically like my content, my debate content, the way that I do is we're kind of the defenders of our position. You see what I'm saying? But like a large amount of focus and energy into building the community, I think is something that's valid. And that's something that we definitely need to do because there are people who don't see it, don't have it. And it's a shame because there's a lot of us out there. One person, the person that I interviewed first actually said there is a lot more of us than people tend to think. Oh, a hell of a lot more. I mean, there are people sitting in the pulpit in the churches right now, just like how you are, that's how you were. We're like, this is boring as shit, and I don't want to be here. But they're teenagers and they have access to phones and everything like that, but they don't know that we exist. You know what I mean? And they because they're so insulated. So I think
Yeah.
building that community, and unfortunately, I would say this, unfortunately, a lot of the positive side is not how you get visibility. It's more of the doing the content of debate me bro type of thing. That and now of course it does get annoying. We do get a lot of philosophy bros, and I don't like philosophy bros. I don't like the p versus not p. I don't This shit don't matter. Can you prove God exists? That's all that matters. You know what I mean? So I do feel you though. I do feel you though. But it's like that's a way to get visibility. But heavy amount of focus on the community should be there, which is why I think we need a new face on atheism, especially black atheism. We need the face of
Yeah.
the cookout. That's what I would call. I call it the cookout. You would definitely be a good face for it, in my opinion. But I know you don't want to get into that. But I think if you were to do more, if you were one of those people who actually did content, especially child-free content, definitely you'll probably get 1 million subscribers tomorrow. You feel me?
Aw, it's funny you should say that about the people in the pulpit because back in my dating, back when I was in the market, I remember going, I don't know if you've heard of meetup.com.
I heard of
I
it.
yeah, I used to attend this meetup, and it was, black singles, young black professionals, like, focused. And the organizer of it, um he always played up the religion stuff. Always played up the religion stuff. And it was kind of annoying, but it was what it was. Anyway, somehow me and him started kind of dating, whatever. And I remember just asking him, so what's with, the religion stuff? Do you go to church? He's like, oh no, I don't go to church. I'm like, but all this stuff you do with the faith, religion. He's like, that's what you have to do to get black people interested. He's like, that's what I do to get, to kind of hook black people. You know how we are. And I'm like, wow. So it's like, a lot of us are, like you said, it's the booty gospel thing. It's it's all performance. And it's so dishonest, and a lot of us know this, and that is why, like, people of faith are so easily swindled. I think statistically they were saying, in terms of being scammed, people of faith are more vulnerable to scams, because all you have to do is bring up God, bring up prayer, bring up faith. There was that influencer couple that had this crazy MLM. I think it was called blessings in no time or something. And they were like robbing people blind, and they focused on black people. And they were like this beautiful, black influencer couple. And I'm like, and people were buying into it. Why? Because they played into that religious faith card, and then they mixed it with blackness, and it's the perfect storm. And we just can't see through it. And the thing that really frustrates me the most is that, and this is, what do you think about this? And I know you've encountered this. Even people who are black and into social justice, like people who are like hardcore radicals, who are like, fuck the police and, social justice, even they are in this religious crap. And I'm like, how do you reconcile? Like, I remember I was listening to this podcast about a woman who was about abolishing the police, like, abolishment or whatever. And I listened to it, and I remember she actually was a Christian. Okay, wait, but you are for abolishing the police, but not abolishing the church, not
Yeah.
abolishing religion.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it goes back to, our the civil rights history, because the church was a lot of the places that people organized at. And of course, if you're always going to church to organize, people are going to convert. But what a lot of folks don't know is that the beginnings of civil rights movements for black people, a lot of those people were like leftists, a lot of them were socialists, a lot of them were atheists. You know what I mean? W.B. Du Bois, Frederick Douglass, Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, Bayard Rustin, a lot of these people were atheists. You know what I mean? So, and but the thing is, because of the way society was, and because we can only organize at churches at that point, because that was the only place that the racist government allowed people to congregate at, was at church. A lot of the civil rights movement got involved in more into churchy type stuff, more into religious type stuff. And I see that with the people that I commune with now, and with organizations, some organization that I'm part of right now for civil rights, and for mentoring young black men, and mentoring getting black men into more of therapeutic sessions and stuff like that. A lot of them is same thing too. You attract a lot of people with religion. We have people from the Nation of Islam in there all the time. You see what I'm saying? So it's it's one of those things where religion is so imbued in, like, it's so like imbued in our society. It's hard to get rid of, even when it comes to social justice. You see what I mean? Because it has such a long history, and it'll be hard to get out. Like, even in that community, I've even told them that I don't believe in God. I haven't told them that yet, because I don't know how they'll react to it. You see what I'm saying? So and I already know. I'm going to, I'm getting my master's in clinical mental health counseling. Even in
Yes.
that, I already know my clientele might be limited, because like then that might be the first question I get with a lot of people. Do you believe in God? And I'm gonna be honest, I'm telling them no. You know what I mean? And once I tell them no, they're gonna be like, "Oh, I gotta move on to another therapist." You see what I'm saying? Like, I know it's gonna happen, but at the end of the day, I want to help my people out. You feel me?
It's like, religion is why black people can't have nice things like therapy. Like, one of the things that really pisses me off is how, religious and faith-based our therapy is. Even when we do this thing that we should be doing more of, which is mental health, I mean, the thing that literally is handicapping us, and I don't know if that's the right term to use, but it's like the thing that is stunting our emotional and mental and intellectual and, growth is the thing that we are using to literally free ourselves. It's like this is what got us into this mess to begin with. A friend of mine who is a therapist, she was telling me how like somebody was like looking like trying to get her as their therapist, and they were looking for faith-based help, and she's an atheist.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, tell me this person is black without telling me this person is black. She's like, yep, they were black, a black woman. She wanted a faith-based therapist. And when I got, and this is funny, she says, when I got on the call with them, she's like, I just want to let you know, I said that you want faith-based therapy. I can't help you with that, but I can refer you to someone else. And she's like, oh, no problem. That's okay. It's not like you're an atheist or anything. That's what the woman said. And she was just like, well, I am an atheist. And it's like it's insane that you have to come out like you've got like some kind of awful disease. And I do think black people demonize or fear atheists more than white people. I stand on this. There are people who like to play these weird games, but black
No, you're
people are statistically more religious than white people. Black women, even more so. Those are just the facts. I did not make the reality. I wish it wasn't so, but black people, black women in particular, love us some Jesus, right? And the way we fear atheists, you would think the slave masters were atheists. You would think the slave masters would keep us from the church
right.
and try to tell us there was no God the way we fear atheists. It's weird. It's giving insane. You would think Satanists were the ones who enslaved us. The way we fear Satan. What was my husband's always telling me? Satan's the good guy. Like seriously. I wouldn't know because again, I didn't read the scriptures, but according to him, they were good guy. Okay, I'm gonna go with that. But the thing is, the way we fear, and we fear in even more like weird ways than like white people. Like, you know what's going on with Rihanna? And like apparently she was making fun of like a nun or something, and people like, see what they do. The Catholic Church is evil and toxic. More mocking. I approve this message. What? Why should we respect an institution that is just involved in every possible massacre, human rights violation known to man? I mean,
Like
what? But
the
black
cat,
folks in a tizzy.
and it's his,
Embarrassing.
the Catholic Church murdered children, y'all. What are we doing here?
Castrated children too. Like, I
What are
mean, it's
we doing? It's it's embarrassing. It's like you said. It's super embarrassing. Yo. It's like yo, y'all mad at Rihanna for making fun of guns, part of the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church are the ones who hid pedals, but y'all
yep.
blaming the gays. Y'all blaming the
Yes.
gays for grooming for grooming people, but they all
Yes.
in the church. It's
Yes.
embarrassing.
I
It's
don't
completely embarrassing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it is it's like again, believe whatever you want. This is what I was thinking even the other day. What irritates me, and when I become a mean atheist, is this is what black. There's a lot of arrogance I notice. Is they're mad at us because we don't want to believe in imaginary shit, and unless we're redefining make believe, because my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, I can't see God. Apparently, God is everywhere. So clearly, He's right here in this room with me. I can't see Him, smell Him, feel Him, taste Him, touch Him, and yet He's here. I don't believe in stuff I can't see, taste, test, smell, whatever. And for that reason, I am either stupid, according to these people, or evil, or deluding myself. Are you insane? Under any other circumstance, this would not be an issue or question. Like if I was like, oh, there's a robber here, and they're like, where is he? I believe in him, but I don't see him, feel him, or taste him. Then it would be not. It wouldn't make any sense. But because we're talking about God, it makes total sense. The fact that people get like I've been like attacked online and trolled because I don't believe in imaginary stuff. That is what gets me pissed off. Like you believe in whatever you want. You can believe a dolphin saved you. You can believe in anything. But why do you have to suck me into it? Why do you have to suck children into it to teach them right from wrong? Why? That's what I don't get.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. It's like it's just one of those things. Like I don't. Like you said, I don't understand it at all. Just like how you said, like it gets even worse than can't feel, taste, or sweat. They say that that this entity is outside of space and time. Think about if you call the police, right? And then the police came in and be like, okay, where's the robber? Oh, the robber's outside of space and time. They're gonna look at you like you fucking crazy. They might arrest you for misdialing 911. You see what I'm saying? For abuse,
Stop
they
it.
might arrest you for it. It's like, yo, what you in Florida in Florida we got something called the Baker Act, where if a person is like if they're like, they you have to send them to jail. You have to put them into a nursing facility. And if I were to do that, call 911 and they say, hey, there's someone breaking into my home, and they send the police and they're like, what happened to the person that breaking into your home? And I say, oh, they existed outside of space and time. I'm getting Baker directed very, very quickly. You see what I'm saying? So it's like I don't get why it's annoying. And that's part of why I do what I do. You know what I mean? For people to see that. But like it's annoying. But here's what we're gonna do, okay? We are at about an hour 15, and I do appreciate you, Jen, for coming on with me. If
Mhm.
you have any last thing to say, anything to promote, any social media platforms, anything like that to promote, go ahead and do it now so we can go ahead and sign off.
Okay. Um, just wanted to say real quick before we wrap up the thing on kids. When, because I do feel strongly about this, even though my name is child free sister, I don't have any kids, don't want any kids, but I feel like I get an opinion on kids because wait for it, I was a kid once. I think it's abuse because you're not giving children a choice. And if the way you're going to teach children, right from wrong is an imaginary being, I feel like it's the same thing. Like I have to hit my kids to teach them right from wrong. I think the most important thing you can teach kids is critical thinking, loving them for who they are. I wish Black people would do more of that with their children. I also think one thing that is very unpopular opinion. I don't think Black people like outsiders either. And I think, like we love to say, oh, white America doesn't like outsiders, but we don't like outsiders in our community either. Whether it's gay people, whether it's people who are atheists, agnostics, immigrants, certain groups. Like, so I just feel like that's a thing to keep in mind. Um, and yeah, in terms of what I want to promote, you can find me on social media everywhere. Child Free Sister with an A. And yeah, that's it's been great.
It's been great. Hey, child free, I really, really appreciate you. I'm gonna put all your social medias in the description of this, and this will be dropping likely next Sunday. All right.
Yay.
All right. Jen, I appreciate you very, very, very much. You have a great night. Okay.
You too. Thanks for having me. Bye.